Okay, so the only reason you're seeing just me in this video is because basically when we were all back at the school in class, we just ended up like getting caught up with like talking about the whole debate thing and with Amber, Gracie, and Galvin. So, and then Salvador, he didn't really just want to do the fourth video because he said that he like punched in the this is when you were like we were all talking about like the grading and stuff like that on how many videos we do. He punched in his grade if we do 3 videos, and he's like sitting at mid 90s. So he didn't really want to do it because he's like it won't really affect him if he doesn't do the fourth one. So I ended up just brushing it off, like, okay, whatever, and we just freaking talked for like a whole hour. And then when I came home, I realized like, damn, like I should have just done that fourth video because it's gonna mess me up, right? So I hit him up and I was like, you want to just do the fourth video over the phone? He was like, no, not really. And I'm like, okay, it's all good, because it won't really affect his grade if he does 3 out of 4. So, and then and then we just came to a decision that like I'll just do the fourth video by myself, so I can get that extra 100 points, because he doesn't really care about his, because he'll still be sitting at 90. But for me, I'll be at like that borderline like 90% if I get 4 done. So I'm just gonna do all 4. So not all 4, but I'm just gonna do the fourth one by myself. So, but anyways, when it comes to wait, hold on, I have to go to the bathroom. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. But anyways, like a crime scene resurrection, whatever, I feel like it's basically giving you like sequences like of the events based on scientific like forensics, like scientific evidence. Like it's like scientific facts of this is what happened and these were the events, this is what happened, the events, and evidence back those conclusions, if that makes sense. So I feel like in the big picture, you're looking at like pretty much what happened scientifically, and like scientifically, which is based back of the evidence that we found. So when it comes to like one of the evidence kind of like gives you, like, we're trying to like figure out like the who, what, when, and where, like stuff like that. When it comes to like, or even like how things happen. So I'll give like an example for how. So when it comes to like how, I feel like pattern analysis evidence is really key for that, because like an example, like it would be like if someone got shot in the room, and you look at like the blood stain pattern analysis, like on how it is, like how it was like splattered, like forensic investigators are able to look at that and determine like how this person got shot and like what angle and stuff like that. Because I remember like beginning of the quarter, I think it was like the first lab or the second one, we looked at like different type of blood splatters, and we like kind of like guessed or determined on like what kind of happened, like the pooling and like all that stuff. So I think that's what they do when they look at like these blood splatters that like are on a wall, and they kind of figure out, this is how that person got shot, and this is how maybe the gun was like aimed at a certain way. So that's like kind of gives you on like how the murder happened. So, and then when you have like when it comes to like trace evidence, I feel like trace evidence will like give like a big clear like picture of like who was involved or who was around. Like trace evidence is basically like evidence that people would even think that it's basically things that people wouldn't even think that's evidence itself. Like hair follicles that people won't really think like those type of stuff will really like kick them in the ass at the end in court. You have like hair follicles and like maybe like a booger or something, or like sneezing on a wall, or like you go like this and you like touch the wall or something, like just stuff like that is like trace evidence that could lead up to like it's like little tiny things here and there now like lead on to the suspect. And an example with that, like with this situation I'm talking about right now, is someone gets killed in the room. Say like it was by some guy, right? You know, and like I remember like seeing this type of stuff on Forensic Files on TV, basically where the guy would like have the blood, like he would shoot the person, and the blood stains will like kind of like fire back, like say that would only happen like if you shoot him close up. The blood will kind of just fire back on your clothes, and obviously that guy doesn't want to like take all that home because it could like get him in trouble. That's how they think, I'm pretty sure, because I see them do it all the time, like when they have like the scenarios on the show. So then they would end up like taking all those clothes and they would throw it away in the trash. And the thing is with those clothes, it has all that person's DNA on it. So when they try to take those like little tiny elements and try to like conclude it into one, like a conclusion of like who the suspect could be, or like the killer itself, they would they would match the blood to the victim. They would match it to the blood that's on the clothing, and then say that gets approved, right? Like it's matching. And then they would take like evidence from the clothes itself, like say if there's trace evidence of hair follicles on the shirt or even in the pants from like pubic hair or something like that, or even leg hair. And then they would find the DNA behind that and they would trace it to like the suspect. So there's like so many different ways will kind of just give you like a lead on, like from scientific evidence itself would like give you so many answers on how things escalated and like how the timeline was with this whole homicide investigation itself. So, and another thing when it comes to timeline itself, you want to look at more like the digital evidence, right? So like that includes like camera footage, like this person came here, or like like even like like just like camera footage of like the person going to the house, and you have other CTC footage from the streets following the car on where they went from their house all the way to here, and then you can see the person going into the house, and then they come out a few moments later and they like throw a bag in the trash. So stuff like that, like that's all digital evidence. That's like evidence showing from a digital point of view, showing that this person did this, this, and this. So that would kind of give you a conclusion of how the timeline went. At this hour, this person came to the house. At this hour, this person, or like at this time, this person went into the house. At this time, this person left the house. At this time, this person threw a garbage bag in the trash. And then they go find that garbage bag and it has evidence on it. It has clothing and blood and all that stuff that ties up with that murder, that homicide itself. So it's like a lot of stuff like that, like a lot of scientific evidence, or like evidence in general, could kind of give you a conclusion on how, can give you basically a sequence of how the events were from a time period stance, like a timeline. So which is pretty freaking amazing on how all that can like really like give you like an understanding of how the murder happened, like how the homicide happened. You know what I mean? I feel like another cool type of evidence that could really help would be also like footprints, like shoe prints, like shoe like say if okay, say there's a bunch of shoe prints around the house, right? It's a muddy area, and then they take like the high contrast like photos and use that as like physical evidence type of thing. I think, I'm not sure. I think it's like an example of physical evidence. I'm not pretty sure, but anyways, and then like say they like find the suspect, right? And they investigate more into him, and then they do like a whole search on his house, and then they find the same exact shoes as the print from, there's a footprint that was outside of the guy's house, and like you can see on the footage the guy walking in the same direction of where the footprints were, if that makes sense. And they like take those two footprints, like the shoe, like the grip on the shoe on the bottom, they'll take it from the dude himself, and they would match it with the pictures, like the evidence. And then once they get a match, they can also use that in court, saying that it was also him, because the shoe prints also match too. You know what I mean? So that's like another way of like trace evidence, if that makes sense. And another big thing I feel like I haven't talked about is trajectories and like ballistics and stuff like that. And this is like a mainly leading on to a lot of like hardcore scientific evidence. Is to actually for investigators to see like how the crime even happened, like how it even escalated, if that makes sense. Like kind of like understanding on what even happened, like why did the person even die, or like why the person even got shot. So I feel like this would they would pretty sure that they would use like laser technology and like a bunch of technology stuff to like kind of like see how the gun was positioned, to make it like to kind of see if it was actually like intended to kill the person, or like if it was like in a self-defense manner. Like they would, it's hard to explain, but they would use a bunch of well, hold on. Okay, I was on the right track. They would use like laser technology to like kind of see the position of the gun and like the distance and the angle, to kind of like give you an understanding of if it was in self-defense or not. Like if the person was like far away, or if the person was like so close, and like like just stuff like that. So it's so tricky, but like that's like another way like behind science, is like the whole technology stuff, like technology kind of analyzing on how the gun was positioned, and then this and that, and then like the distance, and it'll kind of like give investigators a conclusion, like maybe this is what happened, maybe it was self-defense, maybe it was with intent. And I feel like that's only like really reasonable if they don't even have like other types of evidence, like digital evidence, like text messages and stuff like that. But anyways, okay, so when you take all this like evidence, right, you have like regular evidence and you have like scientific evidence of like this laser technology stuff, right, to like determine like how the gun was positioned and how it was shot, and like what angle it was, to like kind of like determine on how the whole scene escalated, and like if the person even like just died as an isn't as like an innocent person, or they caused harm to the suspect. So a few weeks ago, or like 2 weeks ago, we did that whole the standard things. So I feel like in court, when you're presenting all this evidence, and then you present to them like that the gun was positioned this way and this way, and it was at this distance. Because I even remember like in forensic files, like they would show like videos of the bullet going like this far, or like this fast, and they would use technology to like laser technology to like analyze that. They would analyze the bullet, and they would analyze the gun, and kind of like they would like take like the blood stains, and then they would put all that into like technology, and let technology do it, and give them kind of an understanding of how things escalated. Because when you already have like the blood stain pattern of like the whole like splatter on how it got, like how everything kind of like happened, that kind of already gives you like an idea of like how the person got shot in the first place. But when you like, that's just like the outcome, right? Now we need to know like what happened before that led up to that that blood stain pattern or whatever. Then you look more into the gun itself, or even the suspect, and then you have like footprints, and you kind of like see how they were standing based off their footprints that are on the floor, see what position they were, so that's kind of like you let like like the laser technology kind of like handle all that, if that makes sense. Because I remember seeing it on the TV show. Like I remember them like you putting it all into like the computers and stuff, and they would kind of like analyze the gun, the bullet, and like kind of like make scenarios trying to figure out what happened. They would actually like do stunts. Like they would like a guy would stand this way and like fire something. It's like a dummy act. Like they would kind of try to react the whole situation and see if it matches up with the evidence that's already being shown from the crime scene, if that makes sense. So when you're presenting this all in court and like kind of like giving them, like, oh, we did this and this and this, like with technology, and how to like find all this information of how the whole situation escalated, right? And then they would use like that one standard which you learned about, the Daubert standard. Like we would want to, the courts would want to know if this evidence is like, is it even legit? Like if you like I can understand it, like if you like kind of think of like the idea of like of technology, like laser testing and all that shit, like kind of giving you a glimpse of like how the gun was pointed, how the angle was, how far the bullet went, leading on to like the person being shot and having that blood stain pattern. Because I feel like the blood stain pattern tells a lot about the homicide itself, but we need to know like what went on like during, and like what the actual situation was. Like I feel like most people do that, but anyways, they would want to know if that strategy of finding out what happened, like using that laser technology or any other technology that they have to like analyze stuff on how it happened, is it even legit? Like, is it like tested? Like they would want to know if this is just like a new thing that they're trying out all of a sudden, right? Because this is a homicide case. It's like really serious, so they want to know if this way of finding evidence, like backed by science and technology, is even like valid or not. Because let's say like if it wasn't valid, like at all, and they still approved it, then we could be giving way more years to the suspect than needed, right? Like say if it turned out to be self-defense, and then they gave a bunch of like evidence showing that, like scientific evidence through technology saying that like it was intended and stuff like that, then they would give him way more years than he actually needed, because in reality it was self-defense. You know what I mean? So, and then like also like peer reviews, I know like the Dauber standard like mainly wants like a bunch of facts, like they want like to actually like actual conclusions to know if it was legit or not. They want facts if this whole technology thing is like even useful. Do people think it's useful? Do other agencies think it's useful? So it's a lot of stuff that really goes towards scientific evidence itself, because scientific evidence is like it's backed by science, but we want to know if the science is even real or not, because there's so many like like AI, that's kind of like some scientific stuff, like technology stuff, that sometimes is not even true. Like sometimes they make mistakes themselves too. So you never know when it comes to analyzing these guns, or like kind of analyzing how the situation happened before the murder was committed. Like in like split seconds before the murder was committed, before the person got shot, they want to know if that like is even legit or not. Like if that like that technology that's being used to like determine all those things is even like valid. You know what I mean? Like just because if it is valid, if there are facts that are showing that that it's like reasonable, that it's good, that a lot of people are like intended to like agree on it and the whole motive behind it, then yeah, they'll pass that evidence, they'll like process it, they'll accept that evidence that they used to like get behind technology, like in science and all that. And then that would shift on to like the whole case in general, right? So it's mainly like, I feel like when it comes to scientific evidence, like you need like also just simple evidence too to kind of like back up the scientific evidence, or kind of like help scientific evidence kind of like succeed, like with that blood pattern, like with the blood splatter like whole thing, like that would kind of give a big idea of kind of how the person got killed, or like how the person got shot, like how the gun was. And then you take like science, like technology, and kind of determine and prove that the gun was this way, the bullet shot this far, this amount of distance and stuff like that. That's, I feel like that all contributes to being, to making scientific evidence being proven, if all that is like, legit or not. It's kind of it's really confusing, but I just feel like, scientific evidence is like morally needed, like in some case scenarios. If I feel like it's morally needed if you don't have a lot of like plain old evidence itself, then you gotta like really dig deep and like see if technology can do it for you, to really dig deep and like figure out what really happened. Because we could have had like a lot of like digital evidence easily saying that, this person texted this person and had an intent to kill this person, and then we would kind of like conclude on, like that's what happened and that's it, like, that that person died that way, and like kind of just pretty much giving you the whole timeline of what happened, because we have evidence of digital like text messages and stuff like that. But say if we don't have that and we're still trying to figure out what happened, then I feel like, technology is needed to really, dig deeper and deeper and deeper, because we can't really, because like technology is stronger, like I feel like it's more, smarter than humans. So all the technology and like, and then the stuff it can do, it can really dig deeper and like, you know, figure it out for you, and figure out things that we wouldn't even have known in the first place, like especially with analyzing like the gun itself, and kind of giving you a like understanding of how the gun was shot, and like and what type of matter it was shot, or even like footprints, like footprints on the carpet, and like matching it with the shoe, and kind of how the person was standing. Just so much stuff like that. And like another thing is like, when it comes to cases in general, people use technology as evidence. It's like as their only evidence to kind of give you an understanding of how something happened. Because I remember when we were talking about VRs, there's like, 'cause back in Florida, there's like that whole stand your ground thing, and people will kind of take scenarios and put it into technology, and which is like all that stuff, like with science and all that, and like they would kind of give the courts like a video, like a VR of kind of how it happened from the victims, or even the defendant's point of view, on to prove their own self on they didn't do it, or this person did it. They would take all that technology, all that VR, virtual reality, and like make a whole scene of what, like close to like what happened. Like they would try to recreate that scene. So I feel like when it comes to this gun, like in this situation I'm talking about, and like trying to figure out how the gun was shot and like kind of what happened, they would take technology and kind of like make it analyze everything. Then you would kind of get an idea of like how the murder or how the homicide even escalated, even like if it was actually intentional or like self-defense, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, again, like the only reason I'm doing the video myself, because like I wasn't gonna do it in the first place, because we were just like talking and about the whole debate stuff, and we just kept talking on and on and on, and then Salvador didn't really care about the fourth video because it wouldn't really affect his grade. Then when I came home, I was like, shit, man, I should just do it, like it'd be like we should have just gotten it done. Like it was like regretting kind of. So I asked him, he didn't really want to do it, so I was like, it's cool. So that's why I'm just doing it by myself, and hopefully I can get that extra 100 to get me to that 90. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like this video is honestly like pretty confusing. like talking about it, but I really hope you can understand the idea I'm giving when it comes to like technology and like scientific evidence. Like it can really help if needed. I feel like it can really also, you know, give you like a timeline also of what happened too. Like technology is everywhere. Like CCC footage will give you a perfect timeline of how things also escalated, you know, and that's all technology. So yeah.